gotta shut the door too, so it's quiet and we don't hear New York City traffic. What part of Tennessee are you in?
So I'm just outside of Nashville.
Uh-huh.
A little town called Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Oh, sure. I know.
Real famous Civil War town.
I know it.
Yeah.
In Nashville a lot for both business reasons and Nashville is, or Tennessee, let's call it that. We spend a lot of time there.
Well, maybe you should move some of your manufacturing down here to Tennessee.
Good tax structure.
It is. It's very incentivized.
Yeah.
To say the least. All right,
I'll come down there one day and we'll go over to Arnold's in Nashville and have some meat and three.
I'd love to do that. I'll take you to Royal Range. Have you been to Royal Range yet?
No, but I've driven past it and haven't made the time to stop by.
Well, I know the folks there very well. They would love to have you as a guest. They converted that old movie theater into their gun range. It's really
it looked cool. Very cool. Yeah. Okay.
Let's do it. All right, lead heads. We are back with another episode of the Talking Lead podcast. I'm your host, Lefty. 10 years of leducating the unleducated here on the Talking Lead podcast. And we appreciate you lead heads supporting us over these 10 years, making each and every week fun and exciting and educational. And we've got a very educational and entertaining show for you this episode, lead heads. A few episodes back, I'd kind of got the lever action bug, and I had some folks on, and we talked more modernized lever action rifles. We had Mad Pig Customs, Steve with Mad Pig Customs. We had Pete Pye with Defiant Munitions on, and we had Midwest Industries. I can't remember the guy's name now. It just slipped my mind. Anyway, we had the owner of Midwest Industries on. He'll be kicking me in the ass for not remembering his name. But that kind of got me thinking of other lever action heroes that we should have on the show. And I thought, what better company or person to have on? And I was very lucky to get this person. I was just hoping to get anybody from this company, Henry Repeating Arms, on the show, because they do more than just rifles. We got the owner and president himself, Anthony Imperato, on the show, ladies and gentlemen. How was that for a score? Anthony, welcome in.
Well, thank you for having me on. Looking forward to chatting with you a bit, and just for the sake of clarity, I had been the president for the past 25 years, and they pushed me aside now. I am the CEO and founder, so Andy Wickstrom is now the company president, and he could do all the fun things I used to do. So.
Well, it seems that you're opened up to do even more fun things now that you're not tied down as the president, as the CEO and the founder of the company. You seem to be going out more, getting more face time with the customers, with the industry, and it seems like you're having a really good time doing that.
Yeah, consider myself blessed really to be in this wonderful industry. Because of the great people I've met, from sea to shining sea, so many customers that have become friends of mine, and maybe we never met face to face, but correspond by email, and a few of them have my cell phone, etc. And
nice.
But I try to make my way occasionally and surprise them, and as we say in Brooklyn, ring their bell. I showed up a couple of 4th of Julys ago in Moorcroft, Wyoming, which is kind of a remote locale, and pulled up in one of our Henry trucks, and lo and behold, one of our good customers came out and we sat on the porch having coffee for a couple of hours. So I'm really lucky to be able to do that kind of stuff. It's just wonderful and wonderful enjoyment for me.
Absolutely. And like us, we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year. Henry Repeating Arms, you guys are celebrating your 25th anniversary. And you're kind of doing it with a big bang. So congratulations on 25 years in the firearms industry with the iconic Henry rifle.
Thank you. Yeah. For congratulations on your decade doing what you're doing. Time moves along pretty quickly. I've been in the firearms business, the gun business, full time since about 1980. So it's a little over 40 years, and I'm in the firearms business because it goes back to my grandfather's retail police equipment / gun shop. I worked behind the counter there.
Oh, cool.
Growing up, and then in my father's wholesale firearms business, etc. But in 1993, I took a licensing agreement with Colt for making their Colt black powder guns. Mortgaged my house, took out a home equity kind of loan, and set up shop in Brooklyn, New York. Began building the Colt black powder signature series revolvers, and then 5 years later got the first Henrys off the ground in March of 1997.
Wow. So you started off doing black powder revolvers, huh?
Yeah. My father had a very strong relationship with Colt for a number of years as a wholesaler, and there was a kind of a dormant licensing agreement we had, and I decided to resurrect it and give it a go. And it's honestly, that was the entree into getting Henry Repeating Arms up and going.
So the lever action, as my lead head know, this is kind of a new passion of mine. I've always loved it. I always loved the rifle. My dad had, Winchester 94, model 94 when I was growing up, used for hunting. And he passed away several years ago. And, I got that rifle, which is right here. Happen to have it handy.
Very nice.
And, this is kind of the one that got me into it. But then, of course, the Westerns, watching those old Westerns, the John Wayne movies and the Ford and all those guys, the legendary spaghetti westerns and things like that. You always see those in there. The Lone Ranger. I grew up watching the Lone Ranger on TV, and the revolvers and the lever actions were always the prevalent guns in those movies, and I always loved them. And I had my dad's, and I just never really thought any more about them other than that until I saw this post by Mad Pig Customs, and I think you're familiar with the guys over at Mad Pig Customs, where they are taking Henrys and Marlins nowadays, and they're modernizing them. They're putting those rails on the front. They've got different stocks they're putting on them. They're modifying your rifles and then just making them more modernized where people can slap those accessories on there. The more accessories nowadays, the better for a lot of folks. But they're going inside, they're doing a lot of things to the innards and, all that too. But that got me rekindled my love for it. And I haven't done that yet on any of the levers that I've got, but I picked up another one the other day too. It was another 94. I got it right here. Very similar to the other one. This one was made in 1964, but it's a 94 model. I got at an auction I just happened by, and that's what really spurred it and sparked it for me and got my interest going again. And I kind of am interested in how you got involved with, again, what you just said, your family, ever since you were born, you guys have been in the firearms industry. So growing up, what got you involved with the lever action? Why did you decide to go lever action versus some other firearm?
Well, I'll get to that question, but first let me segue in with this. You know, the lever action is, in my mind, really America's rifle. The reason being, it was invented here and by Benjamin Tyler Henry. And if you look at most other firearms designs, over and under shotgun, bolt action rifle, revolver, even a semi-automatic pistol, etc., those actions were designed and birthed outside of the USA. The lever action was born here and served this country very well from the mid-1860s through, let's say, the 1980s, 90s, where it began waning.
Yeah.
At that point. But you know, as you know, hunting with a lever action, keeping the gun on the ranch or for your home for self-protection. The lever action is America's rifle, and you don't see it made in many other countries at all. You know, there's a couple of minor exceptions. You know, a bolt action rifle is made everywhere, but it was designed in, you know, in Europe. To answer your question, you know, it's a good question, because why would I go into a market that was declining at that point? Winchester had seen its better days. Marlin was also somewhat at, you know, sort of the end of the road, and so to speak. And so we decided to resurrect the lever action market with a price point, made in America, rimfire 22, that was backed by extraordinary customer service. And pinch of sand at a time, one day at a time, we built that interest back not only to where it was, but we think we have surpassed that and have a whole brand new group of lever action lovers that didn't exist before. And it's also one of the most reliable firearms actions as far as feeding and as far as accuracy. So, hey, you know, you can't go wrong. You can't.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, that's something that I've noticed too when I started doing the research on that first lever action show that I did. Is just, I was amazed at the popularity, the resurgence of the lever action, because you know, I was like, hey, I need to go pick up a couple of lever actions and, you know, start playing around with them, and looking at the prices on them nowadays. You know, I figured I'd go pick one up for, you know, $300 or something. That's like, whoops, that's not the case. And that, you know, that kind of led me down that road of exploring it, and just the resurgence of the lever action, the popularity has astounded me. I was shocked to see that, pleasantly, you know, but kind of unpleasant for my wallet. But when I went to these auctions,
you know,
there's yeah, go ahead.
Firearms industry, like everything else, is subject to you know, inflation and costs of labor and materials, and where, you know, Henry repeating arms made in America are not made at all. You know, if you want to get an imported firearm, you might save a few bucks, but you know, we've been all about made in America from the get-go. Our original motto was made in America and priced right, because, you know, we had a 22 lever action out for about $200 when we first started, some 25 years ago, and it's still quite a value. But
Oh,
if you're
absolutely.
using genuine American walnut as an example, and you're gun drilling the way we do, etc., it costs a few bucks to put a gun together.
It does, and I'll rephrase my answer or my comment there. And the 22s are still very affordable when you get the rim fires. It's when you get into the the center fires where and that's the calibers that I'm looking for, more the hunting,
Sure.
the 30-30s, the 45-70s, those type calibers, and that's where you can get into some bucks, but still well worth it, like you said, to get American made reliability and the customer service that Henry Repeating Arms is known for. And it's astounding. So
thank you. We take that personally, but let me finish up on your point about pricing and firearms. Look, there's very few products that you can buy where the consumer expects it to basically last for 4 generations, okay,
and quality,
and barely have to be fixed, So if you're spending, let's say, $700, $800, $1,000 on something that's going to last for 65 years before you have to put a lot of effort into, getting it serviced, the consumer is getting, for lack of a better expression, such a great value in a firearm. And when you think about what goes into it, 72 working parts that have to feed correctly, fire a projectile accurately, etc. The gun is a tremendous value.
Oh yeah.
So
you sold me. I'm sold.
Yeah.
I'm sold.
Yeah,
I just
yeah. Just pointing that out.
My point was the popularity, because when there's more demand for something, also, that's another, that very well, prices go up as well. And I think that more so than anything, at the time that I started the research was the reason why the price increase on them. But since, with the COVID and the shortage on parts and materials that we've experienced, not only in this country but worldwide, that's affected everything, and it's just kind of part of life right now, which sucks. But that's life.
Absolutely. But there was the interest in the American cowboy and all that it symbolizes is so strong. You have some network TV stations that exist, and they've got large audiences just showing reruns of Gunsmoke, The Rifleman, all of the old great spaghetti westerns, etc. And then you've got a show like Yellowstone and a couple of their spin-offs that are the biggest shows on cable television, 14, 15 million viewers. There's the power of the American cowboy, and really the American spirit is alive and well.
Yeah, and the lever action, like you said, that's the symbol of the American West, of America. That's the gun that won the West, right? Is that what one of them's been coined as? And then what was the one in the Civil War? It's like the gun you load on Sunday.
Well, that's the original Henry rifle. The I don't know, slogan, if you want to call it that, or the quote was, the gun that you load on Sunday and shoots all week long. Yeah. And we brought back that model. I think it was in 2011 or 2012, and we have what we call the new original Henry rifle, which is quite spectacular with and complicated to make, with the octagon barrel and the tube being one piece, and the whole
I really love
system.
the octagon barrels. You know, that to me is like the iconic ones when you can get the octagon barrels. I love those.
Yeah, beautiful, elegant styling. But we're talking about heritage here, but we have a modern platform. We've got the new X series, and we've got, synthetic stock versions with bells and whistles, like you were indicating before, and they serve today's consumers' needs.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I'm
yeah,
pulling up for our video audience. I'm pulling up the Henry website right here, and I've gone to the shotguns because I didn't realize that you guys did more than the rifles, which, again, the name Henry Repeating Arms, you guys are more than just the rifles. I want to talk about that, but first, the center fires, that's the ones that I'm really into, or the center fire lever actions here.
sure.
And for your 25th anniversary, do you have any special releases for your 25th anniversary?
We do actually, but what we are starting with is we're making a 25th anniversary Golden Boy. We are making 1,000 of them, and they will be sold off, and 100% of the proceeds will go to through Henry's Guns for Great Causes charitable arm of the company. And we will have about $1 million or a little bit more to donate and parcel out to several worthwhile charities, including sick children's hospitals, wounded veterans organizations, wildlife conservation, first responders and law enforcement, fallen law enforcement, families of fallen law enforcement, and Second Amendment endeavors. In fact,
awesome.
I just presented a check for $50,000. That was the first check to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, which both caters to first responders, 911, fallen officers, fallen fire department, and they also are now involved in building homes for military veterans. And on Saturday, July 16th, I'll be at the VFW convention. We're presenting a $50,000 check to the veterans of foreign wars. So that's the first gun that we're doing in honor of our 25th anniversary, so we can give back. But then we'll have some special editions, some very, very limited special editions, one of 25 with exhibition grade walnut. I mean, these guns are going to look incredible along various models in our line. So if folks listening are interested, sign up, get on our email list, and get our free catalog. The free catalog comes with a list of dealers in your area. You get 2 decals. You get the Henry Repeater, which is a nice sort of lifestyle newsletter. Nice. And that's at henryusa.com.
Yeah, and I've got it pulled up for our video audience here, but for our listening audience, again, like Anthony said, you go to it's henryusa.com, right?
Correct, henryusa.com.
And that's where you can get that free catalog. You can see their full line of rifles, which I've got their website pulled up here now. And the charitable events and donations that you're doing is something that I wanted to talk about too. And you just nailed it. So you said $1 million. You plan on donating at least $1 million this year?
Yes, it'll be $1 million. It will be $1 million, if not a little bit more.
Wow, that is awesome. And when you do these limited edition, I assume they're going to be auctioned off items, or how are you going to do?
They'll be sold at a specific price. And again, 100%, every single thing we've done in Guns for Great Causes is 100% goes to charity, period. And we've done individual sick children's cases where we'll build 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 Henrys. We'll put some artwork that relates to the child somewhere on the stock. And we normally auction off serial number one, and the others are sold off. But again, all of the proceeds go to either the organization or a specific family that is struggling with a sick child.
Very good. And the article for the donation to the Tunnel to Towers, you guys can go to their website there, and there's a nice article about it there. Amazing, $50,000, man. You guys are very generous. I didn't realize that about your company, so I'm glad to hear that. And
thank you. It's look, we could take the case of making donations and being quiet about it, but when I started this some 20-something years ago, I was so tired of the gun industry getting a black eye that anytime there was something in the media related to the gun industry, it was not a single positive thing. And I know, after spending 40-something years in this industry, that how good the people are in this industry, not only the business people, but the consumers that are out there. They're all, for the most part, 99.9% law-abiding, tax-paying, God-fearing. They'll give you the right arm first. They'll give you the left arm if you need it. Great folks. And so I just want to show that, that's what this industry is all about. And that's where Guns for Great Causes came from.
Well, you're doing the Lord's work for the firearms industry, and I appreciate that. And like I said, I was going to get to that in our segment for the Leadhead Brigade Heroes, because I was going to nominate you and Henry Repeating Arms as our Leadhead Brigade Hero this episode. So congratulations, you're our Leadhead Brigade Hero this episode.
Thank you. I'm sorry I tripped you up on that one.
No, that's fine. This is a fly by the seat of your pants show, and our listeners know that. So we chase squirrels and we get back on target eventually. But yes, I wanted our listeners to know the amazing PR, and you guys are great ambassadors for this industry, and all the donations and the charities. And it's not just one. I mean, you share the wealth. You're, like you mentioned there earlier, you're doing children's nonprofits, you're doing military and law enforcement nonprofits, helping wounded, and you're building houses, helping people build houses, and it's just unlimited. So it's amazing. And we need more companies like Henry Repeating Arms to publicize what they're doing, because you don't get enough coverage. And a lot of these companies think, we'll just kind of do all this stuff behind the curtains. We don't want a lot of exposure for it, but I think they're doing a disservice to our industry by not getting it out there and promoting it and pushing and letting people know that the firearms industry does more for our country than any other industry that's out there. So thank you for doing that, Anthony.
Thank you. Yeah, and also within the industry, there are important things that we have always supported, such as wildlife conservation. So we'll be making donations in wildlife conservation, and we partner with all of the industry's organization: Ducks Unlimited, Pheasants Forever, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, National Wild Turkey Federation, Mule Deer Foundation, on and on and on, and some other entities, of course, in wildlife conservation. And then we get behind firearm safety, hunter education, youth shooting sports, such as with the Youth Shooting Sports Alliance or the IHEA, et cetera, et cetera. All of those things are really important to us. We believe in all of that, and we will continue to support those areas and organizations.
That was awesome. That's fantastic. Now, do you guys get behind the cowboy action shooting? You guys get involved with some of that?
Uh, a little bit, but we are in the process of making some more inroads in that shooting sport discipline. The 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 guidelines for cowboy action shooting, many of our modern designs were not acceptable in cowboy action shooting. The big boy line is, the original Henry is, and we're going to be working more closely with the organizations involved and teams, etc., to get behind that, and other shooting sports disciplines,
Sure.
lever action, silhouette,
Yeah.
etc. We also support a lot of handgun competitions too, which kind of go under the radar. If it's a gun, it shoots, and you're involved in in the beauty of the sport and enjoying the sport. We're interested in supporting it.
Yes, your Second Amendment rights.
Oh,
so
yeah.
How do you feel about the latest Supreme Court ruling on that? And that directly affects you because you're in New York.
Yeah, well, we the gun shop that we had in New York City since 1911, I closed it last year, so it was 110 years old. I closed it because we kept it open for sentimental reasons for the past 20 years.
That's really hard
when
for
it was a cop shop where police were buying guns from us. Now they have their own equipment bureau. And then it's so hard for a New York City resident to get a gun permit, and it would cost $500, $600, $700, $800 for them to do all of the paperwork. And if they needed a lawyer to help them with paperwork, of course, it would cost them so much more. But growing up working in that sort of constrained environment where people felt the need to defend themselves, yet couldn't go into their pockets for that kind of money, or just didn't want to deal with the burden of all of this paperwork, and let alone the right to be able to carry. I mean, now more than ever in New York City, and I'm 65 years old, I'm a longtime New York City resident. We had a dark period in the 1970s into the 1980s where you just didn't feel safe here. And then Mayor Giuliani with a couple of stints, and then Mayor Bloomberg, despite his anti-gun behavior, the two of them kept this city safe. When this last administration came in, they just dismantled the whole thing, and you have to worry about walking on the subway, or in certain areas walking on the streets, even in good areas. We're seeing grab and go crimes here and things like that. So people are not feeling safe, and it's really the time to consider going to purchase a firearm, but it's still difficult here. It's still quite difficult.
Well, hopefully the Supreme Court ruling will lead to better conditions for people in your area, in that area of the country, to exercise their right for self-defense.
Yeah, I'll never forget. I was a young man behind the counter in our store, and a father and son came in, and they had just opened up a check cashing business in what would be, somewhat of a difficult neighborhood, let's call it that. And they weren't sure what to buy, and I convinced them, I think you should start out with a revolver, etc. And so they bought a revolver, and lo and behold, a week or two later, there was a holdup there. They were able to protect themselves, and they came back thanking me for selling them that firearm, and that's when it really, the bells went off. It really resonated with me as, this is why I do what I do. Like these people were able to protect themselves.
Right.
And unfortunately, you don't hear those stories. You always hear the negative stories, and we're putting blame on the gun.
Absolutely. And that's, and that is unfortunate. We were talking about this on the last episode, is especially, going through an election cycle, and their agendas, and, we're seeing all the reports of these mass shootings again, and it seems to happen cyclical. Every time there's an election period, this stuff rears its head again, but you never hear about the good guys with the gun. Those stories never surface. They never see the light of day. But that's what we try to focus on here on this show too. And
I normally don't try to get too political, but since you just mentioned this, and we're on just in the aftermath of these horrific mass shootings. And the other side of the tracks thinks that we're emotionless, cold-blooded people because we're in the gun industry, and it couldn't get any further from the truth than that. But
yeah, and we know
I
that.
wonder where are the parents of these young individuals who are doing these things? Where is the family? Where's the family? And the way I look at it, and I'll give you the short of it, is that these young people aren't growing up with being able to develop a conscience, because religion is not a big part of a family anymore. There's no respect for law enforcement. There's no respect for teachers. There's no respect for authority. There's no respect for grandparents, etc. And so the ability to have a conscience and say, this is something I shouldn't do. I mean, I grew up, with my grandmother being 3 times a week at church, a Catholic, and it was like, if you told a white lie, you're going to burn in hell. We had something holding us back from doing something wrong. There's nothing holding these individuals back, because all of that is now, it's gone. It's just simply gone. And until we recognize that, we have to fix that somehow. And I'm not here to push religion on people, but somehow that mechanism has to come in place. And
absolutely. And it's not necessarily religion, but it's the core moral values that religion teaches. Those core moral values that this generation, the past few generations, have missed out on. And you've nailed it, Anthony. You've nailed it. That, and when people are saying, what's the problem? What do we do? Is it the gun? Is it mental health? No, it's the core family unit that has gone away, and the sense of family pride. There's tons of things that I've considered doing that I wouldn't do, because that would be an insult to my family, kind of thing, or it would shame my family, and that was instilled in me through, great grandparents, and parents, generation after generation after generation. And that's the way that my parents, I had parents, I had a mother, I had a father. I grew up with a family unit, had 2 brothers, 2 older brothers. They beat a lot of sense into me, but that's
family is you could have a mother and father, but they have to be present. Yes. They have to be present. They have to be there. I could talk about this for hours, honestly. And our school systems are going to have to recognize, when they see a child that is sort of isolated, is not in the mainstream. And some studies have been done recently, and they've had some test cases where they've singled out individual children who seem to be troubled, and they simply began, let's call it, showing them some love and showing them some attention. One boy in one of these test cases actually said, because you did that, you saved me from doing something bad. That's all it takes.
Right.
It just
Right.
takes some effort here.
Absolutely. And I don't understand why that's not the focus of all these debates and conversations. It's not the guns, it's not the mental health. You know, the mental health issues stem from, coming from messed up backgrounds, not having a solid youth, when you're growing up, not having a solid role model, not having a solid family unit. I think that has led to a lot of these disturbed individuals going out and doing the things that they're doing. So, they find the core issue. You nailed it, Anthony. It's, the loss of religion, the loss of morals, the loss of, teaching these values through a family unit. And whether that's a mother and a father or grandparents or an extended family, through church or, some other type organization. That's what we've lost, and that's why we're where we're at today.
Yeah, yeah. I look at it, like I had said a little bit earlier, as the mechanism of developing a conscience is not there.
Yeah.
They stripped that all away from all of these things that we just discussed. I really believe that it's fixable if we as a society pay more attention to it and collectively, with an effort, go to try and heal this thing. But to stay in this train of thought, about guns, and let's call it guns and crime. Not that it's insignificant, but these mass shootings are, if you just want to get cold about it, insignificant in numbers compared to, the amount of deaths in urban crime. And you never hear discussions about what we need to do to really resolve that problem. If you have cancer, they're not going to go to pull a tooth. They're going to give you chemotherapy. We're looking at some of these problems and trying to throw things at them that make absolutely no sense, that don't resolve the problem. And and again, I could talk about this for hours. And,
please continue. This is great.
My feeling here is this very simple equation with these gun crimes in urban America. But of course, it's a very complex social, economic, historical, cultural, you could weave all of these things into a problem that would take a lot to address, but with the right problem-solving type people behind it, probably a quasi-public and government think tank with all of the right people. I believe this: you end poverty, you end gun crime, you end violence. That's what it takes. If the folks in the difficult urban areas, if there were jobs and hope and interest in education and belief in families and all of those things, you wouldn't see gun crime in inner cities. That's what this is. That's what will, at the end of the day, resolve once and for all. And look, this country has money, and I'm not saying here's just reparations. There's a bigger, longer story behind this, and we could discuss this for hours and hours. The answer is this: end poverty equals ending violence. Period. Drug crime, which is 80% of what goes on with it.
Yeah.
And look at all the money that we had with COVID. There's money there, and I think with the right people, we could fix this problem.
Absolutely.
With people who know how to solve problems, like business people.
Like
we know how to solve problems.
Like Anthony. I mean, and you nailed it. the key component there is teaching conscience, teaching people to have a conscience when they're young. And that's like where you got to start right there. And then all this other will work itself out. But
yeah.
The great conversation, like you said, like you said, we didn't want to talk politics, but we talked a little politics. So we got it out of our system. And
You
by
got
the
me all
way,
riled up now.
and by the way, do you know Sheriff David Clark? Have you met him before?
Yes, yes.
He's going to be on tomorrow. So
Tell him I said hello.
I will. I certainly will. I think we'll probably talk a lot of politics with him tomorrow, but it'll be fun. But let's get back to Henry repeating arms.
Yeah, let's get back to the fun stuff.
The fun stuff. So I want to talk about you now. I want our listeners to learn a little more about you. And it sounds like you've been involved with the firearms ever since you were born. It's kind of a family tradition. What's your earliest recollection of the first firearm that you ever shot?
It was my grandfather's pocket 32 Colt revolver. And in our little store in Little Italy, behind what was the old police headquarters, which was there for decades. They moved in the 1970s to another location in downtown Manhattan. But we had a single lane range in the basement next to the gunsmithing tables. And, excuse me.
That's okay.
And one of the gunsmiths that worked there was like, "Hey kid, I'm gonna show you how to use a gun. Let's."
Sweet.
And I can still remember the target being wheeled down, manually wheeled down to the end of the range. And that's still my favorite gun today. Because it's sentimental.
And you still have that?
Yes. Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And how old were you?
I'm sorry?
How old were you?
7.
Around 7? That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, 7 years old.
But you grew up in a unique, situation, with your family being in the firearms, where most people are like, I went out hunting with my granddad or, something, and then, we shot out in the woods or something like that. But what kind of target was it? Do you remember the actual target itself?
Yeah, we used to sell the targets. It was the typical, black and white circular target, and we were selling them to the police, to the police department training centers also. And then when the gunsmiths repaired a gun for somebody and needed to check for accuracy, they'd put one out, and it was quite unusual to have a license to be able to have a range in New York City. Yeah. But remember, I grew up in Brooklyn. I grew up playing stickball and stoop ball and urban street games. If we had 10 feet by 5 feet of grass in the backyard, that was a lot of space. But somehow I have in my DNA a connection to America's heartland. Like I don't know where it came from, but like there's a respect and a kinship there. And I've been able to travel, this city slicker has been able to travel through the smallest towns, in America, from Creede, Colorado to Etheridge, Tennessee to Sedan, Kansas, et cetera, et cetera. And I have such a fondness for our heartland, and I get emotional about it, and I love, I'm a New York City guy too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not happy about the current circumstances of the past few years, but this is a great city. The people are resilient. The sports, the music, the restaurants. It's
food.
It's great. The food, it's great too. But there's. I don't know why it's there, but my love and respect for the heartland is there.
Now, did you ever get into hunting?
To be honest, No, I've been on a couple of hunts,
Sure.
But what happened back when I started Coat Black Powder, which evolved into Henry, I basically put on my boots, and the factory was 15 minutes from my home. I had 3 children. I wanted to see them, and I was there at minimum 6 days a week,
Yeah.
if not longer. And then we began running infomercials on television, which were on the weekend. And I gave out my email address, and people would email me on Saturdays and Sundays, and it was all consuming. I've been invited on the most amazing, bird hunts in Argentina or Spain. I've been invited to, safaris in Africa, the greatest, but I just never had the time for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that speaks volumes to why your company has been so successful and is successful. It's because you put your heart and soul and your time into it, and that's great. Now are your kids into the family business as well, or are they taking different routes?
No, they're not. They do their own thing, which I'm happy about.
Sure.
And I don't want my big ego and big shadow to get in their way. So I'm happy that they're doing their own thing.
Oh, absolutely. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
Yeah.
So back to your youth. We talked about the first gun that you shot. You said it was your grandfather's Pocket 32, and you still have that, which is awesome. I would love to see pictures of that. That'd be cool to post up. As you were growing up, you said you're a city kid. You grew up and you did a lot of the street type, playing the ball and hitting the ball with the stick and that kind of stuff. What I was gonna say, what was kind of your go-to to get away from it all, or like a hobby kind of thing?
Well, as a young, I've always been a sports guy, and so I played on both the local softball team and the local basketball team. I played in school, and then I also played in some organized
Rec
basketball locally. That was my exercise and my hobbies, as a younger man.
Yeah. What's your sports team? What's your favorite sports team?
I'm a diehard New York Yankees fan. In football, I'm a Giants fan. I was a Knicks fan for quite some time. Now I'm more inclined to root for the Brooklyn team, the Brooklyn Nets.
Nice.
I'm also a race car fan, and you may have seen we stick ourselves in racing. My son has raced in the Porsche Cup Series and the IMSA WeatherTech Series. We've done some NASCAR racing. In fact, 4th of July weekend, we have the Henry 180, which is the Xfinity race, and we'll have Riley Herbst, who's on the Haas team, behind the Henry car at Road America. Road America, probably the greatest sports car track in the country.
Yeah, well, I've had some NASCAR guys on the show. Ryan Newman, he's been on the show. Had him on. We sponsored a Camping World Series truck a few years back. We had the Talking Lead logo on there.
Cool. Yeah, it gets in your blood. Racing gets in your blood. It's addictive, and then of course now I've fallen in love with Formula One and just.
Oh man.
We also have a guy, Cody Swanson, racing in these modified classes. You could check that out too, with Doran Racing.
Okay. Cody, what's his name?
Cody Swanson.
Okay.
And Andy Wickstrom, our company president, he spearheads our dirt racing team, and so we're involved in dirt racing too.
Awesome.
So You'll catch our logo on a few guns and gears is what it's all. We got to have a little fun,
Absolutely.
plus promote the brand at the same time. So,
but this is the most diverse and welcoming industry community that there is, the firearms industry. And that's what I try to do on this show too, is by having different guests on, like Ryan Newman, have a NASCAR guy on. We've had Karl Malone on the show, basketball.
wow.
So we want to show the diversity, that it's not just the good old boy redneck, syndicate that they make us out to be in the liberal media. It's everyone, no matter what your color is, your religion, your sexual orientation, everyone loves their firearms. And that's, what the message isn't getting out there about that. And that's what we try to do on this show. And I love that you guys are doing that as well by getting into these other industries like the racing. And it's hard to get, they heavily edited my logo because they wouldn't let me have the bullet holes. They wouldn't let me have the bullets on the car. I was able to sneak this in on the car, though, the microphone, because they thought it was a microphone instead of a bullet microphone. So
yeah, it's mainly because the television is clamped down on all of that stuff. We ran for years, several years, on news clusters. We were even on CNN or MSNBC because it was bought as a package and all of that, and just all of the. And then unfortunately, even networks that you would think are conservative, when it comes to lawyers and standards and practices, just becomes anti-gun. But that's what got in my jaw initially. It was like, but before we did infomercials, I couldn't sleep one night. I went downstairs into the basement so I wouldn't disturb anybody, and I put the TV on. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I see an infomercial for colon cleanser, and I'm like, if they could sell this on TV, we've got to be able to sell our beautiful, well-made pieces of Americana Henry rifles. And, we kind of broke a barrier there we ran infomercials for several years, selling guns on TV, not direct to the public, but we spoke about, our product line, our company, etc.
Were you the face man? Were you the guy?
Yes, I was the talking head.
Are those videos still out there? Or
yeah, you could go into our Henry videos, probably on our YouTube channel. I know they're on our website, but
cool.
We have several of these infomercials that we made over the
today you can't. There's no gun advertising whatsoever.
They basically shut you down. There's very few venues that you can go. You can't even advertise that you have a free catalog on Facebook. They won't let you do that. Like Henry wants to offer a free catalog and pay for advertising on Facebook. Hey, get our free catalog. We can't do it.
Yeah, they have heavily shadow banned the firearms industry, and I've experienced it just this last month heavily, which I don't know what's kicked them off to me now, but in the past I've not had any issues, but they've really heavily banned my post and things that I'm doing now, which I'm not in the business of selling fire. I don't sell firearms,
Yeah.
And
but it's anything related. But I'll tell you an interesting little thing here. When the horrible, horrific Newtown tragedy happened, we immediately pull our advertising. That's par for the course. It's disrespectful, even though we had nothing to do with that, but it's just par for the course. We pull our advertising. The next morning, I'm flipping the channels in a motel room somewhere, and there's the video game network, and they're showing, what goes on with that.
Yeah.
People getting their heads blown off left and right, like it was going for candy bars.
Yeah.
That's allowed to stay on TV, but we can't say, here's a made in America, American employees, American walnut, American heritage product. We can't say that. We have to go hide in the sand, but yet they could do that. Or they could show shows about gang violence and glorify it.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. They pulled us off of the History Channel at one point.
Oh my God.
And still we can't go on the History Channel. And they were showing, I can't remember the name of the show, but the episodes were basically about gang violence.
Yeah.
And killings. But it was okay to show that.
They show that, but not a good, responsible, safe firearms company that is promoting safety and education and training. That is
exactly.
It's ridiculous. But I get where you're coming from, and it is very frustrating and very hypocritical. And I don't know how we change that other than getting good, solid American 2A proponent people that own companies to start their own networks and news stations and film companies and all that. It's just those industries are so infiltrated with socialist and people of that mindset that we've lost control when it comes to that. But let's get back to fun stuff. I want to talk about you. When it comes to, and I don't take you as a big television watcher or whatnot, but when it comes to pop culture, whether it's music or TV or a magazine, what's kind of your go-to just to get away and entertain yourself? Like movies?
So we spoke that I'm a sports guy and a racing fan, but I grew up. My mother was sickly when I was a kid, and we grew up with my grandmother taking care of us for a while. And she was one of 13, and her mother, my great grandmother, had a restaurant in Little Italy. So cooking was a big part of the family, and so I learned how to cook as a young age, and that's remained with me as a hobby to this day. So nice. Cooking and wine, like I'll have family over, friends over. That's my go-to as far as relaxation and
I love to cook
and enjoyment. And music, rock and roll, middle of the road, John Mellencamp,
Bob Seger,
country western music, that's my thing. Although, I love a variety of music, but
variety's a spice of life, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I like a little variety. So what is your go-to dish? Like if you want to impress somebody, you're having them over for dinner, what are you going to make? What's your go-to dish?
Yeah, look, it's a great question, but I get that asked a lot because I'm around food, and even when I've taken all of these road trips over the years throughout America, I'm always on back roads looking for mom and pop. They call it diners, drive-ins, and dives now, but before it became diners, drive-ins, and dives, that was my second job after trying to sell guns going around the country, because I would always look to find places like Arnold's in Nashville, Tennessee, and as an example, and I could give you 100 other places more around the country, but it's really, soulful from the heart cooking. And my go-to is, like when my kids were growing up, I'd get up early before everybody else and I'd go to the market, and whatever intrigued me, that visit to the market, a little bit of this, a little bit of that,
whatever
I'd go home and I'd make it. And my cooking is basically Mediterranean style, very healthy, olive oil, garlic, fish kind of a thing. And of course, a pasta, and I'm Italian, a multitude of other things. But yeah, and look, food brings us all food brings us all together.
Maybe that's the answer, Anthony, is food. Maybe everybody should just dine together,
Yeah, take all the gun people, take all the anti-gun people. I'll make a big antipasto and a dish of pasta and crack open some good wine. Let's put an end to this
perfect
difficult situation, man.
I love that. I think that's where it starts. The stomach, the stomach.
Yeah.
Please the stomach, and everything else is happy too.
That's true.
So, and I'm sure you're at the point in your life where you can do anything, go anywhere, have anything that you want. What is something that, laws be damned, money be damned, you would do, or maybe you would own?
I'm honestly not about material possessions. I'm more about experiences, and I try to teach that, to my kids. Like a Chanel handbag or a Prada eyeglasses isn't the way to go. It's some kind of, experience that moves your emotions, and that's really what I look for. And it could be in a whole bunch of different ways, whether it's being involved in our charitable stuff, or mentoring a young person, and or to be a little selfish, some traveling and going to see the things and experience the things that that I want to see. To me, that's really what it's all about.
Well, what part of Italy is your family from?
On my father's side, from a very small remote island called Ventotene, which means windy, of the wind.
Yeah.
And it's only inhabited by about 500 people still to this day. We have a couple relatives that still live there. It's about an hour and a half by boat from the mainland. It's only 2.5 miles long, and quite an interesting
Have you been there?
Place. Yes, I've been there twice, and I know where my grandfather's house is because we still have one relative that's living there. And in fact, I'm going again. I'm taking all 3 of my kids. 2 of them have been, but my son hasn't been. I'm taking them towards the latter part of September. There's an annual festival there, so that'll be the first time that he's there. And it's very emotional. I have both of my grandparents, because my mother's side of the family, the father came from the south central coast of Sicily, Agrigento, and I have their Ellis Island records in frames in the hallway in my apartment here in New York City, because this is very emotional for me.
Sure.
I respect where they came from beyond poverty. I mean, basically penniless, and both of them told my father that if they didn't leave during in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they would have starved to death at that point. And they loved this country. In fact, one of them would not go back. He feared, my mother's father feared that if he went back, somehow they wouldn't let him come back. And so the other one went back a couple of times. But our factory in Bayonne looks out on the Statue of Liberty because it's right on the waterfront. And to think that, they came by boat from these little remote places from poverty.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
And the conditions that they had to travel over here in, too, were just horrific.
Horrific.
Nothing
so
like.
I'm grateful for them. I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for their bravery.
Absolutely. That is a great story. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
You're welcome.
All right, I'll ask you one more question, and then we'll wrap this up. I know you got things you need to be doing. You're in New York City, baby, city that never sleeps, right?
Yeah.
If you could spend, and this could be a range or maybe the racetrack or wherever. Pick the scenario, but if you could spend the day at the range with any one person or maybe a group of people, whether they're still living, dead, or fictional, who would you choose?
Jesus, Abraham Lincoln immediately come to mind.
Okay.
Those two.
Would you do the racetrack or the range with them?
I'd probably sit down to the second last supper with them and cook. That would probably be my thing. But yeah, I think I would probably go to the racetrack and sit back and enjoy a race and let them relax a little. They both had some difficult experiences to contend with, and they both got through it. And so
I would like to see Abraham Lincoln in a car, racing a car with his hat on, with it sticking out of the top. Cut a hole so his hat would fit through it. Now you said you're getting into the Formula One racing. They just recently had a Formula One race here in Nashville.
Yeah. It's when my son started racing several years ago, I picked up on Formula One then, but it's evolved, and we use a lot of Haas machinery in our factories, which, by the way, I like telling folks, we have 600 employees. We have 3 factories with 350,000 square feet of manufacturing space. And we use a lot of Haas machinery amongst other machinery. So Haas supports a Formula One team, and occasionally I'm in their, hospitality suite at a race. In fact, they just invited me to the one in that passed last time in Canada a couple weeks ago, but I couldn't make it. So yeah. So it's all good stuff.
Do you own your own cars, or are you just sponsoring the cars? You have one that you own?
We own our dirt cars, and when we race in IMSA, we own those cars as well. But for example, the Xfinity car is a Haas car that they basically get us the driver, and we get the livery for the event.
Sweet. That'd be fun. We'll have to.
Well, look, next year, come to the Henry 180. It's basically as long as Xfinity and NASCAR keep that series in Road America in Wisconsin, we'd love to have you as a guest. We did a great shoot with Kevin Harvick and some of the other drivers last year pre-race. He was there with his lovely family, his wife and his children, and we had a few other drivers there and some of the maintenance crews and all of that, and cool. We had a blast.
They're fun.
Free race, yeah.
I love going to races, and that's in Wisconsin. When is that? The Henry 180.
July 2nd. It's going to be on national TV. I forget what network it's on. I think it might be on the USA Network, though I might be wrong. But it's Saturday, July 2nd, the Henry 180.
And then, as we're speaking, July 4th is coming up. What are your big plans for July 4th?
Well, I'll be driving with my 2 daughters are coming to the race this year. And her birthday, one of them, their birthday is July 2nd. So I told her she can throw the green flag for the Henry 180. But July 4th, we'll be driving 5 hours across the state to Rice Lake, where our factory is. And we'll probably stop for a hot dog and a Dairy Queen somewhere along the way. Can't go on 4th of July without a hot dog.
Oh, absolutely not. Very good. Well, Anthony, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I greatly appreciate you taking the time to be on and letting us learn not only more about Henry Repeating Arms, but yourself. and your background. And I think we could probably talk for several more hours. I got a lot of other questions I'd like to ask you, but again, I want to be respectful of your time. Any last parting words for our Leadhead Brigade, our listeners?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on, and you did a wonderful job, getting into some of the personality and the personal stuff. And that's what I love about our business and about our industry, because to me, it's all about the people. And so kudos to you. You did a great job, and I didn't mind, discussing some of those things at all. And you even got me a little riled up there with the political side of things, which was fine. But I'd love to, hey, at the end of the day, I want to sell Henry. So folks, go to our website, henryusa.com, get your free catalog, sign up for our newsletter, etc. And people, I think, will enjoy being part of the Henry family, whether they buy a gun or not, because we're more than just bragging about our product line. We're going to bring an emotional connection to you. That we want to hear from you. We want to hear about who you are, what you do. Just let's connect. henryusa.com.
And one more thing I forgot. We can't ignore the listener questions. We have some listener questions for you.
Okay.
If you will entertain us with this. And then we've got a couple of giveaways that we're going to do for our listeners here. I made a post yesterday on Instagram asking, letting them know that you were going to be our guest today. And these are the questions that we got so far. Instagram's pulling up. If I haven't been banned by now.
Yeah.
Completely. Let's see. Pew Pew RN, a Henry semi-auto in the form factor of long range and 308 and other similar calibers. That's his favorite, he's saying.
Okay.
He's saying he would like to see a big bore series of rifles in the 454 Casull, 460 Smith & Wesson, and 500 Magnum. Any plans for those?
The answer is right now, no. We've looked at some of those calibers. The 500, look, it's a great caliber, and I love my folks. It's friends at Smith & Wesson, great bunch of folks there. But we looked at that platform, and it was just too big and unwieldy for our receiver designs. There's a possibility with a 454 Casull one of these days, maybe the 460. The policy that we have adopted is that when we see guns going in the box, that they're coming off the assembly line, we announce it to the public. And so what I suggest is get on our email list. All you need to do is sign up for our free catalog, and we don't bombard you with emails. It's really not, we're not heavy-handed with it, but you'll get alert when we're ready to announce something new. And I could say that you folks could expect to see us extend the lever action line into some areas that we're not currently in, and but you'll also see us take the Henry name and broaden it into other firearms designs.
That was going to be my question, is other than the rifle and the shotgun, can we expect another classification of firearm coming from Henry?
The answer is yes. At some point, yes. When that is, I can't say, but we've got 5 years of 5+ years of firearms in development. By the time you put pen to paper and you begin a firearms design and journey, it's about a 3-year process before you see the gun get into a box.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
And hope for no Murphy's Law and everything else that can.
That always happens, especially with supply chain issues that we're having now too.
Yes.
A lot of people's projects on the back burner. Jay Allen on Facebook says, "Thank you for Made in America."
Well, that's what we're all about, and he's most welcome. Look, even when I sold guns behind the counter in my family's police equipment / gun shop, it was a little weird taking an iconic American name, seeing an iconic American name of a firearm, and it's made
somewhere else.
Somewhere else, that's a bit, in a gun, that's kind of hard to digest.
Yeah, I agree. I think you nailed it. You did a great job. Giddy up. Not buying one until they put a side loading. Dang, I guess Henry is in my future. So I guess you did make one in a side loading model there. So
yeah, we when we started the Henrys, of course it was rimfire, so it was tubular. But then when we went into the big boy design, which was our first center firearms design, we kept with the theme of tubular design because it was in honor of the original Henry, which was tubular design. And so we stuck with that until just, I don't know, 4 years ago at this point, where we evolved to, we have a design that's both side gate and tubular fed, quite a unique and practical design. And you'll see more side gates from us and other variations.
Nice. Definitely there was a need and a want for that, and you guys filled it. AKR Archer's favorite is the new original iron framed. He said, just has that classic look and feel. I'd love to have one. We'll get you one. Get you one, AK.
Yeah, that is a beautiful looking gun with the color case hardened receiver, and the walnut that we use on the new original Henrys is what we call fancy grade American walnut, and so it's quite an attractive gun. In fact, in a new movie that's coming out, we just supplied 11 of them to be used in a movie called Emigrant Gulch, which is going to come out soon.
Ooh, that sounds interesting. Definitely.
Yeah.
The Brett Bedell, my favorite Henry rifles are some of the newer models, Big Boys, steel side gate, load option, and Henry X models. I have a few older lever actions, but as far as new purchases, what I would like to see is a Henry X model with actual wood stock and 4N.
Stay tuned.
It's in the mail, right? It's in the mail. We've got several other questions here. I'm going to pick a couple of winners. Did one of those questions really stand out to you that you liked? We're going to award them a product from our sponsor, Seal One. It's a CLP, all natural-based gun cleaning product. Pick a winner for that.
Yeah, I'm going to pass the baton to you because I want you to be the bad guy for all of the guys that didn't win the prize. So
I'm going to pick Brunk. I need to put my glasses on, Anthony.
I have an answer for you. This is what we're going to do. You pick the winner for those products, but those other 6 questions, you get Dan at our company, that person's name and address. They'll get a Henry cap and a Henry Campfire mug. Give them all 6 questions a little Henry swag.
Well, thank you. Awesome. Thank you. I will definitely do that. I'll pick Brunken 06 for the Seal One. He says, I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet, but really interested in one of those sweet Henry 410 side gates, which, we didn't talk about the shotguns, but you guys also do shotguns. So that's pretty sweet.
Yes.
So Brunken 06, email me talkinglead@gmail.com. I'll need your shipping address to get that over to our friends over at Seal One. And then we're also going to give away one of these trays, Anthony. These are called dump trays. I use them for my armorer's trays when I'm cleaning my guns or disassembling. But you can put your keys and all that by your nightstand. They work great for that. For Mission First Tactical, and let's go with. I'll go on to the Facebook. I'll do Jay Allen. He's the one who said, "Thank you for Made in America." So
Very
Jay
nice.
Allen, you get Mission First Tactical dump tray. Email me talkinglead@gmail.com. And then those other ones that we read, email me. And thanks to the generosity of Anthony there, you guys are going to get some cool Henry swag. So awesome.
Yeah. And if there's another opportunity to come on the program,
absolutely,
I'll extend this to you. I would be happy to do it. Or if you get Andy Wickstrom, our company president, I'd like to take a walk through the product line. You and I got a lot of good personal stuff, political stuff, history, all good, important stuff. But we should walk through the product line, our rim fires, 22 long rifle, 22 Magnum, 17 HMR, etc. Then go into our various centerfire calibers, where we're going to take you across the board up to, let's say, 6.5 Creedmoor, and some new ones that are coming out in our Long Ranger series, our shotguns, our single shot shotguns, our Henry U.S. Survival, a takedown 22, our mini bolt for the beginner. There's a lot of product stuff that we could get into, and Andy would be great.
I should come to your factory and do that.
Come on out. We will get you out on Rice Lake. We'll crack open a few beers on the paddle boat, and we'll grill some steaks, and we'll talk guns.
I love it. We could set up the studio there and record. That would be awesome.
Yeah, and you could see how things get made. We've got almost 400 employees out there, and we are cutting metal and
I would
all kinds of stuff, all kinds of good stuff. Like, you'll see that a lot goes into making the gun. A lot.
Oh yeah. I've done several factory tours. I've done Daniel Defense. I've been to Glock. I've been to going to Keltec. But yeah, I would love to see how lever actions are made. That would be interesting. Definitely.
The door is open.
All right, lead heads. Until the next episode, if you've got questions, you got comments, you can email me talkinglead@gmail.com, on the social medias. Again, to help us out, share our post, like our post. Our sponsors do the same. We're getting heavily shadow banned, and go support our sponsors. Mission First Tactical. Go to missionfirsttactical.com. Use the code LEADHEAD, get 20% off. Seal1.com. Use the code LEADHEAD, get 25% off. 1776 United. Talking Lead is the code. You get 20% off. Factory 47. Use the code LEADHEAD. You get 10% off. At Medicine in Bad Places, get your med kits 20% off. Use the code LEADHEAD20. You get 20% off there. And at Keltec, anything but their firearms, you can get 15% off. Go to their pro shop, keltecweapons.com. Leadhead, you get 15% off there. And I don't think I missed anybody, but if I did, you guys know who our sponsors are. You know the codes. If you don't, email me, talkinglead@gmail.com. Go and show Anthony some love. Go to their social media. Go to their Instagram. You guys have Instagram, I'm sure. It's Henry Repeating Arms. Or
off the top of my head, I don't know what it is. I suggest going to the website first, because then you'll see links to Facebook, to Instagram, etc. In Instagram, you'll see a lot of product shots and stories behind it. But
there's some beautiful
Facebook is more stories beyond product line.
There you go. And it's henryusa.com, leadheads, and let them know how much you appreciate Anthony being on the show. We'd love to have you back, Anthony. Again, we'll talk, like we said, we'll talk product line next time, and I'm sure we'll have more to talk about in the meantime. And until the next episode, Leadheads, as always, keep your loved ones close.
Protect and provide with a Henry by your side.
I love that. Let's do that.
Take care. Thank you, and God bless.